Hey and welcome to the MX5 guide on Navarra in iRacing. This track can be intimidating at first because it's almost 2 minutes long, but it's only the first 3 turns that are a bit challenging. The rest of the track should be pretty straightforward. As always, you can practice against my ghost car, you can find the lap files on the community Discord, which is linked in the description down below, and you can find the telemetry on Garage 61, which is linked in the description as well. On your way into the first turn, you want to align the car with the curb on the left edge of the track and hit the brakes shortly before you reach the end of it. You want to give the brakes a short hard tap to roughly 70%, just enough so that you can shift down into third gear. Be patient, and once you clip the curb on the inside, you want to engage the brakes again as you let the car swing to the outside of the track. Once the car swings to the outside, you want to go hard on the brakes and continue to shift down into first gear. You can let the car swing even further to the left here, but I prefer to stay with 2 wheels on the track, because if you commit to the curb, then you will lose some grip and it will be really tough to keep the car under control. Aim for a clean line around the inside curb, and since we are heading onto a long straight, you want to attack the throttle and engage it as early as you can, so that you can build up your speed and reach the highest possible top speed. Drive onto the curb and use the short straight to align the car with the track limits. You want to align the orange line in the center of your wheel with the center of the colored curb or the upcoming green AstroTurf area. That way you make sure that you won't receive an incident point on your entry into the next turn. And now you can see why we went through those efforts and why they are important. Because we will drive with 2 wheels into the grass while staying with 2 wheels right on the edge of the track so that we don't receive an incident point. This gives us the widest and therefore the fastest entry into the next turn. Stay on the outside and use this white area of the curb as marker. When you reach it, then you want to lift and turn in as hard as you can to point the car towards the upcoming inside curb. Attack the inside, get your car on the curb, and you can even clip into the grass here without receiving an incident point. Once you leave the curb, you want to get back on the throttle and push the car towards the outside of the track. Once you see the red surface area of the upcoming inside curb, then you want to transition onto the brakes, shift into second gear and position the car on the outside of the track to get a wide entry. When you are a beginner and not super confident with the car, then you can stay in second gear here, it doesn't cost you that much time. But when you are a bit more experienced, then I would recommend you to use a manual blip to force the car into first gear before you enter this turn. It will give you a smooth run through the next section, and more importantly, it will get rid of the annoying understeer which you would otherwise experience when you stay in second gear and try to push the car to its limits. The next braking zone, and again, we are leveraging the track limits in our favor. You want to drive on the curb and keep the center of your car right on the edge between the colored curb and the green AstroTurf. That way you won't receive an incident point. Hit the brakes about 2 car lengths before you reach the end of the curb and shift down into first gear. You can also take the next turn in second gear, but the first gear is less understeery. Turn in, and I'm locking the car into the turn here by applying about 50% pressure on my throttle. This gives me more grip on the rear and makes the car more stable when I hit the inside curb or drive into the downhill slope at the exit of the turn. Hit the wide exit and make use of the exit curb again to carry as much of your speed onto the short straight as you can. Hit the brakes shortly before you reach the dirty part of the curb and shift down into first gear. You want to aim for a smooth line around the upcoming inside curb. Try to be early on the throttle and aim for a smooth exit. Now you can fully attack this curb without receiving an incident point, but I found out that it's not worth it when you are aiming for a clean lap because you will lose about a half tenth on a short straight, but this information can be useful when you are in a fight. When you are going too wide, then you can cut over the inside here, you won't receive an incident point, and even once you receive one, you won't receive a slowdown penalty, so feel free to use this red area whenever you need it. Aim for the outside curb and hit the brakes as soon as you reach it. Again, you want to aim for a smooth line around the inside curb. Now, you don't want to attack the inside curb, but you also don't want to fully miss it, like I did it here. This is where I lost my 55, but since the rest of the lap was almost perfect, I didn't want to throw it away. So here's how it's supposed to look like. You want to hit the brakes, get on the curb, and aim for a smooth and clean line around the inside curb. You don't want to attack it because it will unsettle your car and completely mess up your exit. Same story like in turn 3, you want to abuse the track limits and drive with 2 wheels into the grass to get a wide entry into the next left-hander. You want to use the end of the wide curb as marker and gently touch the brakes when you reach it to adjust your speed for the next turn. Attack the raised edge of the curb and accelerate onto the short straight. If you have issues to stay within the track limits on the exit that's coming up, you can attack this curb even harder. It will cost you about a half tenth, but it will make it easier to avoid the incident point on the outside. When you are going for a quick lap, then you will need all available space here, but I'm not gonna lie, this is super risky and nets me an incident point about 50% of the time. If you want to drive for safety rating or don't want to take any gambles, then just attack the previous inside curb hard and you won't have any issues around here. Drive onto the outside curb, hit the brakes as soon as you reach it and shift down into first gear. Be early on the throttle and drive around this curb, you don't really want to touch it. As soon as you touch it, your rear might start to slide, which can mess up your exit onto the straight. Use the whole exit again, as long as you stay with 2 wheels on the colored part of the curb, then you won't receive an incident point. The next turn is extremely important because it leads onto a long straight, so the main point you want to keep in mind here is that you don't want to overdrive this braking zone. So that's why you want to brake early, way before you reach the outside curb, drive onto the curb, shift down into first gear and aim for a smooth line. Aim for the inside curb and be back on the throttle before you touch it. That was a lot. Here comes the uncut cockpit lap where you can let everything settle in. Please leave a like when you learned something new. I want to thank you for your support. Wish you all the best for the next weekend. See you next time.